Hello everyone. Good day. I am Jonathan Ebdao, a Bachelor of Science in Criminology to Block B at Gingoog City Colleges. Today I'm here to present my presentation about the theories of crime and causation. And before I start, at the end of this discussion or this presentation, we should able to learn the different kinds of theories of crime causation and distinguish what is the difference among them. And after we learn the importance of theories of crime causation, we can expect that we can grasp some of the knowledge that we can get from the theories and can distinguish why crime is considered as a social phenomenon. And thus, by fully understanding the theories of crime causation, it can surely give us insights on how should we able to deal with the people that surround us and can help us to detect the criminal behavior in our society. Okay, theories of crime causation. Theories of crime causation is considered as the different kinds of theories that involves crimes and how should be able to understand and prevent them from happening. It helps us to have insight on how should able to deal with them. And the first theory is the classical theory of crime causation, which is the which is argued by Cesar Beccaria and Jeremy Bentham that people weigh the benefits and consequences of their future actions before deciding of course of behavior. Because the classical theories of crime causation holds primarily people decisions either they commit crime or not. Okay, rational choice theory. Rational choice theory method was designed by Cornish and Clark to assist in thinking about situational crime prevention. Rational choice theory holds the person that will engage in criminal behavior after weighing and the consequences and benefits of his or her actions, because rational choice adopts a utilitarian belief that humans are reasoning actors who weigh means and ends, costs and benefits in order to make a rational choice, because we are a rational being that can determine what is right from wrong. And this method was designed by Cornish to assess the situation crime prevention. And the next one is the routine activity theory. This theory was created by Lawrence E. Cohen and Marcus K. Felson based on their 1979 publication of their seminal article, Social Change and Crime Rate Trends. Routine activity, also sometimes referred to as lifestyle theory, have been proven to be one of the more useful theories for understanding criminal victimization and offending patterns in the late 20th century and 21st century. A routine approach, a routine activity theory approach that they view crime as a normal function of routine activities of modern living, that is, offenses can be expected if there is a motivated offender and suitable target that is protected by capable guardian. And the theoretical explanation of primarily focus on providing information regarding who is more or less likely to be crime victim. Okay, the next one is the lifestyle theory. Lifestyle theory developed in 1978 by Michael R. Gutterson, Michael Hindilang, and James Garofalo. Lifestyle theory is a theory in criminology created in 1990. Surprisingly, this theory is Glenn Walters, just as the name would suggest, a lifestyle choice to be a criminal. This theory focuses heavily on the biological factors that influence person's ability to commit crime. And also the lifestyle theory, they argues that it is because of the changes of role, working mother versus housewife, and schedule, a child's school and calendar. People live different lifestyle, work and leisure activities. This theory focuses on heavily the biological factors that influence person's ability to commit crime. Because the main concept of lifestyle theory is that people may become crime victims because their lifestyle increases their exposure to criminal offenders. Okay, the next one is the general deterrence and specific deterrence theory. Cesar Beccaria and Jeremy Bentham are the two utilitarian philosophers of 18th century who formulated deterrence theory as both as an explanation of crime and method for reducing it. And they also argued, or Beccaria argued, that crime was not only an attack of individual but also on society as well. because it emphasizes on potential offenders and the fact that those violators must face severe or fast and certain punishment. It also manifests social deterrence, which is aimed to potential offenders. Also, it has two specific deterrence theory, which is the general deterrence theory that aims to make potential offenders fear the consequences of their action by demonstrating the crime is not profitable. And specific deterrence theory, if the offenders are harshly punished and experienced with, will persuade them not to repeat the illicit conduct. And the next one is the victim perception theory. In 1941, Hans von Bentig presented the victim perception theory that applies only to violent victimization. Victim perception theory, some person may provoke the encounter that result to their harm or death. Because the victim perception theory, some person may provoke the offender so that the crime will surely committed. And according to WASH 2012, the concept of victim offender interaction can be classified either active or passive perception. And it is the active precipitation occurs when victims act provocatively, use threats or fighting words, or even attacks the offenders first. And second one is the passive precipitation occurs when the victim exhibits some personal characteristic that unknowingly either threatens or encourage the attacker. The next one is the incapacitation theory. Franklin E. Zimring and Gordon G. Houskins in 1995 incapacitation theory, final confinement and restraint of crime. Because incapacitation theory stands that if more criminals are sent to prison or keeping down criminals out of circulation, the crime rate should go down. Because incapacitation theory support the idea of imprisoning the criminals. The idea of incapacitation holds that the government has a responsibility to protect the public against the future wrongdoings or harms. And this responsibility can be met through jail or incapacitation and reformation. The next one is the psychological theories of crime causation. Charles B. Goring, who in 1913 published a book entitled The English Convict, a statistical study, concluded that there is no such thing as physical criminal type. This is the core reasoning of Goring in refuting Dr. Cesar Lombroso's theory of born criminal. And Gabriel Tardy in his theory believed that that people learn from another through process of imitation. And next is the psychodynamic theory and psychosexual stages of human development. Psychodynamic or psychoanalytic psychology was proposed by Viennese psychiatrist Sigmund Freud, or which is known as the father of psychoanalysis. And according to Freud, during the first year of life, the oral stage, a child attains pleasure by sucking and biting. During the second and third year of life, he focuses on sexual attention is on elimination of bodily waste and anal stage, because psychodynamic or psychoanalytic psychology is considered as one of the prominent theories in field of psychology. This theory holds that human personality is controlled by unconscious mental process developed in early childhood. And it argues that human personality contains three major components, namely ego and the superego. And psychosexual stages of human development, the most basic human drive present at the birth is eros. The instinct to preserve and create eros is expressed sexually. This theory explains that behavioral problems manifested by certain individual can be tracked back in his early stage of life. And the next one is the behavioral theory. Behavioral theory was popularized by Burgos Frederick Skinner, or known as the B.F. Skinner. However, it is originally created by John B. Watson in the year 1878 to 1958. Behavioral theory is concerned with the study of observable behavior rather than unconscious processes. It focuses on particular stimulus and how people respond to that stimulus. It also maintains that human actions are developed through learning experiences, and that behavior is learned when it is rewarded and extinguished by negative reaction or punishment. And moreover, psychologists agree that behavior is controlled by unconscious mental process determined by parental relationship developed in early childhood as what Freud believed, unlike Watson and Skinner do not. The next one is the social learning theory. It was created by Albert East Bandura in 1973. Bandura is a Canadian psychologist who argued that people are not actually born with the ability to act violently, but they learn to be aggressive through their life experiences. And social learning is a branch of behavioral theory that most relevant to the study of criminology. In addition, in Bandura 1973 believed that violence is something learned through processes called behavior modeling. Aggressive are usually modeled after three principal sources, namely the family, members, environment experiences, and mass media. Bandura claimed that people learn to act aggressively when as children they model their behavior after the violent acts of the adults since they just imitate it or experience it from them. The next one is the cognitive theory. In 1896 to 1980, Gingoog Fritz Piaget is the Swiss psychologist was the first to make a systematic study of acquisition of understanding in children based on his cognitive development theory. Cognitive theory is a branch of psychology that studies the perception of reality and mental process required to understand the world we live. And in addition, it focuses on the mental process, the way people perceive mentally and represents the world around them. Moreover, cognitive perspective is a branch of is it contains several subgroups such as moral and intellectual development branch, which is concerned in how people morally represent and reason about the world. And also, Piaget hypothesized that child's reasoning processes develop in orderly manner from birth onward, and it has four stages, namely sensorimotor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operation. The next one is the moral development theory. Lawrence A. Kohlberg expanded Piaget's theory of cognitive development and applied that concept of developed stages to issues in criminology. This theory is a moral development was dependent on the thinking of former Piaget and the American philosopher John Dewey. Moral development theory suggests that people who obey the law simply to avoid punishment or who have outlook mainly characterized by self-interest and are more likely to commit suicide than those who view law something that benefits of all in the society and honor the rights of every human being. And further, he has associate found that the criminals are found to be lower in their moral judgment development than non-criminals of the same social background. And, and Colbert's stages of development categorized as follows: obedience, punishment, self-interest, and conformity and interpersonal accord, authority and social order, social contract, and universal principle. The next one is inter intergenerational transmission of theory. The concept of family solidarity or cohesion as proposed by Berm Bengtson and his colleagues has been focused on of much research into integrational transmission over the past decades. Integrational transmission theory refers to the socialization and social learning that helps to explain the ways in which children grow up in violent family learn violent rules and subsequently may play out the roles of victims or victimizer in their own families as adults. And also, in addition, that intergenerational transmission theorists states that criminal and antisocial parents lead to have a delinquent and antisocial children. The next one is the alternative theory. Alternative theory beats the famous saying that opposite charges attracts. Based on the study of Duden in New Zealand, the longitudinal survey of over 1,000 children from age 3, Robert F. Krieger et al. 2010 found that sexual partners tended to be similar in their reported antisocial behaviors. Children with criminal parents are likely to be disproportional antisocial. Thus, there are two main classes of explanation concerning why similar people tend to get married, cohabit, or become sexual partners, namely because of social homogamy, where convicted people tend to choose each other as a mate because of physical and social proximity, and also the phenotypic assortment, where people examine each other's personality and behavioral and choose partners who are similar to themselves. The next one is the differential association reinforcement theory. Ernest W. Burgess and Ronald L. Akerns combined Bandura's social learning theory and Sutherland's theory of differential association to produce a theory of differential association reinforcement. According to Adler et al. 2010, if the criminal behavior elicits more positive reinforcement or reward than punishment, such behavior will persist. First, first will because first, the presence of criminal behavior depends on whether or not it is rewarded or punished, and second is the most meaningful rewards, and the punishment are those given by groups that are important individuals in life, like the peer group, the family, teachers, schools, or friends. The next one is the async condition theory. Async theory is of conditioning claims that all humans' personalities may be in three dimensions, such as psychotisms, introversion, and neuroticisms. Psychotisms are those who score high on measures, are aggressive, egocentric, and impulsive. Introversion is those who score high on measures of introversion, are sensation-seeking, dominant, and assertive. Neuroticisms are those who score high on measure of may describe as having low self-esteem, excessive anxiety, and wide mood swings. This one is integrated theory. Integrated theory has been proposed by Jim Q. Wilson and Richard Julius Hairston. According to Wilson and Hairston, the predatory street crime is showing how human nature develops through an interplay of psychological, biological, and social factors. And the main concept of this theory is that the genes and the environment are factors for some individuals to form the kind of personality that is likely to commit crimes. Moreover, factors that could push individuals to commit crimes are intelligence quotient or the IQ, body build, genetic, makeup, impulsiveness, ability to delay gratification, aggressiveness, and even those with mothers who drink and smoke while they are pregnant. The next one is the material deprivation and attachment theory. Material deprivation and attachment theory has been devised by British psychiatrist Edward John M. Bowlby, who expressed the notion that a child needs warmth and affection from his mother or a mother substitute. Bowlby emphasized that the most important phenomenon to social development takes place after the birth of any mammal, and that is the construction of emotional bond between the infant and his mother. In addition, when a child is separated from the mother or is rejected by her, anxious attachment result could lead to the cut of bonds or the lack of bonds of the parents and children. Thus, according to Adler et al. 2010, that the habitual criminals are claimed typically have inability to form bonds and affection. The next one is the sociological theories of crime causation. Some of the work of sociological theories of crime causation applies the statistical approach originated by Adolphe Quetelet, who explains that crime rates associated with particular societies and social groups. Other work employs the approach originated by Cesar Lombroso to explain the likelihood of an individuals committing crime in terms of their biological and psychological. It discusses how a person learns illegal or undesirable behavior. It explains how socialization agents such as family, environment, schools, mass media, and peers group contribute or influence person behaviors, and explains how a person responds or reacts to the other people with whom or he or she associating with or socializing in the society. The next one is the social disorganization theory. Social disorganization theory was created by Chicago-based sociologists Clifford R. Shaw and Henry D. Mackay, who link crime rates to neighborhood or ecological characteristics. Social disorganization theory view crime-ridden neighbors as those in which residents are trying to live at the earliest opportunity, Residents during this time are not interested anymore when it comes to community matters. That is why the common sources of control such as the family, business, community, and social service agency become weak and disorganized. The next one is the concentric zone theory. Concentric zone theory was pioneered by Chicago School sociologists Ernest W. Burgess and Robert E. Park. However, Clifford R. Shaw and Henry Mackay, who noted that distinct ecological area had developed in the city of Chicago, comprising a series of 5 concentric circles or zones that there are stable and significant difference in interzone crime rates, namely the Zone 1, the Central Business District, it is where the hotels, offices, business, other commercial activities are in. Zone 2, Zone of Transition, is also known as a gray zone. It has the tendency to have conversion of land uses. The third one is the Zone 3, Lower Income Worker People. It is where the homes of the slums are. The Zone 4, High Income Residents, it is where the white collar or middle class families. And the Zone 5, the commuter zone. It is referring to the suburbs where people who work in the center. The next one is the anomy theory. French psychologist David Emile Durkheim introduced the term anomy, which is derived from the Greek word means nomos, means which without norms. According to Durkheim, as anomic theory in one in which rules of behavioral norms have broken down or become inoperative during the periods of rapid social change or social crisis such as war or famine. Anomic mostly occurs in societies that are moving forward from mechanical solidarity or organic solidarity. Durkheim believes that crimes are not only normal for society but necessary and was opposed by London in 1955, stating that without crime there would be no evolution in law because also in the classical school of thought that nulum crimen sine legi, that there's no crime and that there's no prohibiting it. And the next one is the strain theory. American psychologist Robert K. Merton in 1903 to 2003 applied Dawkins' ideas of anomy to criminology. He holds that crime is a function that conflicts between the goals of people and have the means that they can use to legally obtain the goals. According to Siegel et al. 2007, that those who fail to attain the inadequate means would feel anger, frustration, and resentment, which are referred to as a strain, and that those people who are in strain or pressure may develop criminal or delinquent solution to the problem of attaining their goals. To sum up, the strain theory talks about the goal means blockage. There are Merton's 5 modes of adoption, namely the conformity, innovation, ritualism, retreatism, and rebellion. The next one is the relative deprivation theory. This theory was proposed by Judith R. Blue and Peter Blau, which clearly emphasized that a sharp division between the rich and poor creates an atmosphere of envy and mistrust. Criminal motivation is fueled both perceived humiliation and perceived right to humiliate a victim in return. According to Siegel 2004, the relative deprivation is a constant frustration referred by the deprived individuals because of their economic status that may lead to aggression and hostility and may result to violence and can commit crime. The next one is the general strain theory. Psychologist Robert Agnew in 1992 formulated the strain theory of Robert Merton and suggested criminality is a direct result of negative affect states, the anger, frustration, depression, disappointment, and other adverse emotions that derive from strain. The study of Siegel 2004 states that Robert Agnew tries to explain why individuals who feel stress and strain are more likely to commit crimes and offers more explanation of criminal activity among all the elements of society rather than restricting his views to lower class of crime. And, and there are the strain caused by failure to achieve positive goals, strain caused by dysfunction of expectation achievements, removal of positive valid stimuli, and presentation of negative stimuli. These are the variety sources of stain according to Agnew. The next one is the cultural deviance. Conformity to dominant culture norms of lower class society according to cultural deviance theory leads to crime. Clifford Shaw and Henry McKay studied and analyzed the early 90s crime patterns in Chicago. According to Siegel 2004, in his book of criminology, this theory combines the effects of social disorganization and strain that explain how people living in this rated neighborhoods react to social isolation and economic deprivation. Members of the lower class create an independent subculture with its own set of rules and values. To sum up, those who are economically deprived leaving disorganized areas in such to gain success in a resort to crime delinquency, according to CL 2004. Delinquent subculture theory, according to Albert K. Cohen, first articulated the theory in his classical book Delinquent Boys. Cohen's position was the delinquent behavior of lower class youth in actual protest against the norms and values of middle class US culture. Cohen's status frustration refers to the state where youths are incapable of achieving their legitimate goals in life because of social conditions that are into such having poor parents and living slum areas. Thus, Siegel 2004 stated that Cohen was able to believe that because of status frustration, lower class boys who suffer rejection by middle class or rich people may lead to from deviant subcultures, and Cohen called it the corner boy, the college boy, or the delinquent boy. The next one is a differential opportunity theory. Differential opportunity theory is the output of the classical work of Richard A. Cloward in 1926 to 2001 and Lloyd E. Olins in 1918 to 2008. Delinquency and opportunity. This theory combines the of strength and disorganization principle in order to portray a gang-sustaining criminal subculture. The differential theory, kids are also likely to join one of the three types of gang, namely the criminal gangs, complete gang, and the retreatist gang. Olin and Coward agreed to Cohen previous lessons that found that independent delinquent subculture exists within the society. Although Coward and often believed that not all illegal acts are committed by gang youth, they are the source of the most serious, sustained, and costly criminal behavior in the society. The next one is the drift theory. Drift theory, or also known as the neutralization theory, is defined with the writings of David Z. Matza in 1930 to 2018 and his associate with Graham M. Sykes to 1992 to 2010. According to Matza, may learn techniques that is neuralization is in order to temporarily drift away from conventional behavior and get involved in more subterranean values and behaviors, including crimes and drug abuse. Following are the techniques of neuralization of a person to justify his low or violating behavior drift away from the rules of normative. And these are the neutralization. The next one is the differential association theory. Differential association is best described as tell me who your friends are and I will tell you who you are. A Mexican proverb and a quote from Cecil to Naujan. Birds of the same feathers flock together, and when they flock together, they fly so high. Differential association theory was created by the American criminologist Edwin H. Sutherland. In his text, Principle of Criminology, he suggests that people commit crimes by learning in social contexts through their interactions and other communication with them. And also there are 9 principles. Namely, the criminal behavior is learned and it is not inherited. Second is the criminal behavior is learned in interaction with other person in process of communication. Third is principal part of learning criminal behavior occurs within the intimate personal groups. Fourth is the criminal behavior is learned. Then learning includes techniques of committing the crimes. Fifth is the specific direction of motives drives rationalization and attitudes is learned from legal code as being favorable and unfavorable. Six is the person becomes delinquent because of an excess of definition favorable or violation of law over definition unfavorable or violation of law. The seventh is the differential association may vary in frequency, duration, priority, and intensity. Eight is the learning delinquent behavior involves the same mechanism involved in any other learning. Ninth is the criminal behavior and non-criminal behavior are expression of same needs and values. The next one is the containment theory. Containment theory was presented by Walter C. Reckless and assumes that for every individual there exists a containing structures and protective internal structures, both of which provide defense, exists a containment, external protection, and isolation against delinquency. In short, if an individual containing internal or outer containment and protective internal or inner containment are weak, then there's great possibility that individuals will commit a crime or may resort to delinquency because they are being persuaded or being, being involved. The next one is the social and band theory. Social band theory, also called articulate by social band theory, also called social control theory, articulated by Travis W. Hershey. His 1969 book, Causes of Delinquency, now the dominant version of control theory. Hershey aims the onset of criminality to weaken of the ties that bind people to society. He assumes that all individuals are potential law violators, but they are kept under control because they are feared that illegal behavior will damage their relationship with their friends, parents, neighbors, and employers. As cited in Segal 2004, without these social ties or bonds and in the absence of sensitivity to the interest in the other person is free to commit criminal acts. Hershey identified four elements of social bond, namely the attachment, commitment, involvement, and belief. The next one is the social reaction, labeling theory. Howard S. Baker created labeling, which explained that society creates deviance through a system of social control agency that design label certain individuals as delinquent, thereby stigmatizing a person and encouraging them to accept negative personal identity. Baker concerned with two effects of labeling: creation of stigma and effect of self-image that includes stigmatization, self-labeling, self-fulfilling, prophecy, and dramatization. The next one is the primary and the secondary deviance. Primary and secondary deviance was created by Edwin M. Lemert. He states that the primary deviance involves norms, violation of crimes that are very influence of the actors that can quickly forgotten. In contrast, secondary deviance occurs when deviant event comes to attention of significant other social controls agents who apply negative label. The newly labeled offender then recognizes his or her behavior as a personality around the consequence of the deviant act. The next theories of crime causation is economic theories of crime causation. The foray by economics into this area is relatively recent, dating back on Gary Becker path-breaking contribution in 1968. As a part of larger model designed to explore optimal criminal justice policy, he developed a supply of offense function which indicates that the factors affecting the number of crimes rational individual committed. The roots of Because the roots of crimes are diverse and disciplined, the economics predicted on rational behavior may be a something or a disadvantage of explaining a phenomenon largely viewed as irrational. The next is the economic model of criminal behavior basic theory. Economic model of crime by Gerry S. Becker is standard model of decision making while individuals choose between criminal activity and legal activity on the basis of expected utility from those acts. According to Baker 1968, there are actors influence an individual's decision to engage criminal activities are the unexpected gains from a crime-related earnings from legal work, the chance, risk of being caught and convicted, the extent of punishment, and the fourth is the opportunities in legal activities. Specifying an equation to capture the incentives in the criminal decision is a natural first step in most analysis of the crime as the models. The next one is the Karl Marx theory. In his famous Communist Manifesto, viewed crime as the product of law enforcement policies akin to labeling process theory. He is also connection between criminality and inquisitives found in the capitalist system. According to Siegel 2004, he concluded that the character of Berry civilization is determined by its mode of production, the way its people develop and produce material goods. Moreover, Mark identified that there are two components in mode of production, productive force, which includes such things as technology, energy sources, and material sources. Second is the productive relation, which are the relation that exists among people producing goods and services. Next one is the Friedrich Engels and Wilhelm Boger's theory. Friedrich Engels, in his work The Condition of Work Classes in England, portrayed crime as a function of social demoralization, a collapse of people humanity reflecting a decline in society. In addition, the study of Siegel 2000 regarding Engels' theory stated that brutality of the capitalist system, he believed, that turns worker into animal-like creatures out of will on their own. William E. Bonger, in his famous of his Marxist-socialist concept of crime causation, which were established in 1916, moreover, Bongers believed that crime is a social and not biological origin, but exception of few special cases, crime lies within the boundaries of normal human behavior. Thus, Boger believed that society is divided in have and have not groups, not on the basis of people initiate ability, but because of the system production that is in force. Next one is the next one is the biopsychosocial theories of crime causation. Biopsychosocial criminology and psychology is multidisciplinary approach to criminal behavior and related outcomes such as antisocial behavior and its consequences that takes into account interaction between biological, genetics, hormones, sociology, brain structures or functioning, psychological, and social factors. This includes the bio aspect discusses of the things about brain changes, genes, and functions of major body organ, etc. The psycho component speaks of the emotion through and drive the person why he or she may resort to crime, and the socio component examines how person socialize or interacts with another person. The next is the biopsychosocial model of crime causation. William E. Bonger, in his famous of his Marxist social concept of crime causation, which is published in 1916, he stated that the bio component of his theory examines aspects of biology that influence health. The psycho components of theory examines the psychological components, things like thoughts, emotion, and behaviors. The social components of biopsychosocial model examines the social factors that might influence the health of individual, that things like our interaction with others or cultures of our economic status. Next one is the moral insanity and criminal responsibility. Isaac Ray, created as American first forensic psychiatrist, was interested throughout his life in the application of psychiatric principle of law and best known author of medical jurisprudence of insanity. And Henry Maudsley is a brilliant English medical professor, shared Ray concern that criminal responsibility, according to Maudsley, some people may consider either insane, criminal, according to the standpoint from which they are looked at. The next one is the premenstrual syndrome. According to Siegel 2004, the link between premenstrual syndrome and delinquency was first popularized by more than 25 years ago by Katerina Dorothea Dalton, whose study of English women, 156 newly adult female prisoners, indicate that these females are more likely to commit suicide and be aggressive and otherwise antisocial just because of during their menstruation. And and premenstrual syndrome refers to the onset of premenstrual cycle that triggers excessive amounts of female sex hormones, which affects antisocial aggressive behavior. Moreover, Diana H. Fishbein, in her selected studies on the biology of antisocial behavior, concludes that there is a fact association between elevated levels of female aggression and menstruation. And the next is the battered child syndrome. The term battered child syndrome, coined by Dr. C. Hendrik Kempe and his colleagues in landmark article Battered Child Syndrome published in 1962. According to Kempe, battered child syndrome is a medical diagnosis based on evidence indicating that the child has been subjected to pattern of serious and unexplained abuses. On the other hand, Myers 1988 stated that battered child syndrome is purely medical diagnosis. Evidence of past injuries is actual evidence of defendants' prior bad acts and considered of which may lead the jury to improper inner of defendants has propensity or character trait of committing wrongful acts. The next one is the battered woman syndrome. Under the battered woman syndrome, as articulated by Leonore Walker in 1984, she referred to the battered woman syndrome as a sort of learning helplessness. There are three stages of this pattern, namely the first stage, characterized by tension between the pair. Second stage is the cycle of violence, is the violent incident. Third is the stage is referred to as the honeymoon or loving contrition stage. The next is the F, postpartum stress syndrome and postpartum psychosis. In the book of 2019, Delivery from Darkness, a Jewish guide to the prevention and treatment of post-depression by Michael Felkestein. Post-stress syndrome causes feelings of anxiety and self-doubt. Post-depression can come on without warning, and the postpartum psychosis is caused by multiple factors and commonly with only 1 in 1,000 women developing postpartum psychosis in a few days after childbirth. The next one is the political or social conflict theories of crime causation. Karl Marx has the most attention in the most of theories regarding political or social conflict theories of crime causation. Social conflict theories which finds that society is a constant state of internal conflict as different groups strive to impose their will on the others. Then laws serve as a tool to upper class to control the lower class. Though not all crimes are committed by the lower class, but most of the times they are subjects of the arrest. Marxist criminology. Marxist criminology attempts to explain the causation of crimes based on the ideology of perspective put forth by Karl Marx in the mid-late 80s. Every element of society, government, law, education, religion, family is organized around the capitalist mode of production compromising the owners of production. Bourgeois, the worker. Proletariat, the non-productive productive people. Lumpen proletariat. The next one is the conflict theory. Conflict theory views crime as an outcome of the class struggle. Conflict theory was the first applied to criminology by the three distinct scholars, which is the William E. Bonger, Ralph Dahrendorf, and George Bold. In addition, according to William E. Bonger, 1916, everyone may desire wealth, but it's only the most privileged people with the most capital who can enjoy luxuries and advantages. Thus, George B. Bold was the one who adopted the conflict theory in criminology. And this association compromised the two groups, those who possess authority and use for social domination and those who lack authority and dominated, and the society is plurality of competing interest groups. The next one is the social reality. Sociologist Richard Quinn in 1970 embraced a conflict model of crime who integrated his belief about power, society, and criminality into a theory he referred to as a social reality of crime. Based on Siegel 2004, Quinn stated that the criminal definition of law represents interests of those who hold power in society, where there are conflict between social groups. For example, the wealthy and the poor, those who hold power will be the ones create the laws and the benefits themselves. The next one is the left realism. Left realism theory is the most connected to the writings of British scholars John Lea and Jack Young. In their 1984 work, What is Done About Law and Order, by taking more realistic approach. According to Siegel 2004, Young and Lea argued that crime victims is all classes need to deserve protection. Clearly, crimes happens when a person is being deprived economically. Also, when the thief succeeds in his first stealing, then this is a big possibility that he'll keep repeating the same mistake or the criminal conduct. Also, saying that the state criminals prey on the poor, thus making the poor doubtly abuse fist of the capitalism system that then the members of their own class. The next is the postmodern theory. Postmodern theory viewed the language and discourse in due largely to the French philosopher and literary theorist Jacques Derrida, an originator and leading practitioner of deconstruction. According to Siegel 2004, the dominant language of society is the language to rich and the powerful. Postmodern theory focuses on the critical analysis of the communication and language in legal codes. It believes that language is the value-laden and promote the same sort of inquiries that present the rest of the social structure. The next one is the F, constitutive theory. Greek Barak and Stuart Henry's constitutive theory defines crime as the application of harm to others. According to Barak and Henry, that there are two aspects of crime in Siegel 2004. Crime of aggression occurs when a member of a group are prevented from achieving their fullest potential because of racism, sexism, and other status biases. Crime of production occurs when the offended party experiences a loss of some quality relative to his or her present standing. The next one is the conservatism and liberalism theory. Edmund Burke has been widely regarded as the philosophical founder of modern conservatism. Conservative ideologies assume that the legal society is one in which authority is unquestioned. Philosopher John Locke is often credited with founding liberalism as distinct tradition based on the social contract, arguing that each man has a natural right of life, liberty, and property, and governments must not violate these rights. The hierarchy of wisdom and value is accepted by all, the based on the recognizing natural inquisitives. Also, liberalism assumes that the ideal society is one of which there is equality of opportunity and general consensus to accept differences in rewards as the outcomes of fair competition. The next one is radicalism. A mistake arises because of two theories have philosophical foundation in Karl Marx's writings, which have long included radical criminology as a component of conflict theory. Radicalism's main notion is to replace the fictive society. Rights radicalism emphasis moral deterioration reflect in crime rates as forerunner of society, political and economic collapse into war among racial and other groups fighting to survive. And leftist radical posit fundamental and ultimately fatal contradiction is the structuring of capitalist liberal democracy. The next one is the identity fusion theory. Identity fusion theory was created by William B. Swan Jr. and Michael D. Burmester. Identity fusion theory is defined as the visceral feeling of oneness with the group of associated with increased permeability of the boundary between personal and social self. And according to Swan et al. 2009, the blending of an individual personal and social self with a group has attempted to explain why persons engage in political participation. In addition, personal self remains salient. Few persons feel that they both strengthen and draw strength from the groups, resulting in elevated personal agency. Few persons view the group as a family and believe that family members require sacrifices. As a result, strongly fused people will make extreme sacrifices for the group. They have the sense of oneness within the group. The next one is the references. These are the references, the theories of crime causation, rational choice theory, and explain the psychological theories of crime, and etc. These are the references. And thank you for listening. That's all. Thank you and God bless.